Hello and welcome to Introverted Indies. My name is Lydia Baker and I'm here with Jen Farr to talk about her book City Obscura. So, Jen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, thanks for having me. So my name's Jen Farr, and last year I brought out my first book, City Obscura, which is a collection of short stories, sort of urban fantasy, dark kind of, a little bit of horror, tiny bit of sci-fi, and they're all set in the city of Hull, in East Yorkshire, which is where I live.
Yeah, fantastic. So they're all stories that you've written yourself, not a collection of.
Yes.
Yeah, fab. Excellent. So, what sort of inspired you? Because it sounds like quite a mixture of different themes.
Yeah, it's very eclectic. So basically, I've always been a short story writer. I've always loved short stories. Like I was sort of devouring collections of like horrible tales for kids when I was younger, and even watching short anthology stuff on TV,
Hmm.
like Twilight Zone and stuff like that. So I've always loved short form storytelling. I think it can be really effective if you do it right. So the stories in this collection, there's eight short stories, and some of them were written a very long time ago, but most of them were actually written during lockdown because I did not have much else to do and I could not go anywhere outside of Hull. So I just sort of found myself looking to my immediate surroundings and sort of gaining inspiration from there, sort of looking back to folklore from this specific area or just British folklore in general and just trying to put that into a modern setting. Um, so it is eclectic, but I had a lot of fun writing it.
Yeah, it sounds great. And it's great that it's inspired by where you live. And hopefully, people who live in the area can sort of, I mean, are there like landmarks in the books where people can say, oh, I know that place. I've been there and I've seen that.
Yeah, I hope that people do recognise places when they read it. People from Hull, anyway. Um, Obviously, I'm not from Hull. You can probably tell from my accent. I moved up here when I was 19, um, and I just found it to be such an inspiring city. Even just walking around the city centre, like the architecture up here is beautiful. And the year that I moved here, 2010, it actually coincided with Hull winning an award that it probably didn't particularly want. It was like the worst place in Britain to visit.
Oh,
Though I
oh
think the
no.
actual wording was a bit ruder than that.
Oh,
um, so that was sort of the image I had in my head when I moved here. And then I was just so surprised to find that it's actually this really beautiful place with loads of history, maritime history, wartime history, and just walking around the streets, you see things, and it just sort of conjures up it just images of the past, and it really I find it really sort of creatively invigorating living here.
mhm.
Um, so sort of talking about landmarks that people might recognize, there is one story in the collection. It's the shortest one. It's flash fiction, and it's about a specific landmark we have um, in town, in the Hull city centre, and it's the smallest window in Hull. And it's one of those things where I walked past it so many times before somebody pointed it out to me because this window is literally that sort of wide, and it
Hmm.
actually just looks like a crack in the grout. You wouldn't notice
Yeah.
it if you didn't know it was there. And I heard all sorts of stories about why this window existed, what it was used for. I had people telling me that it was so that it was used sort of as a defense thing and people would shoot arrows through it. So there was this real sort of air of mystery around it and
Hmm.
why it existed and what it was used for. Um, I mean, if you do a little bit of research online, the real story is not quite as interesting. It was just so this window is in the wall of a hotel, and it was just used by people who worked at the hotel to see where there were stagecoaches approaching, and they'd sort of go out the door and greet them. And it was just a customer service thing, really. But I just love that not only is it this odd thing that gets your mind racing, it also sort of there's this sort of it's sort of people argue about what it meant, and the origin has become blurred. And I just found that so interesting. So I wrote a story based on that. I called it the smallest portal in England rather than the smallest window. You can imagine where I went with that. But yeah, there's just so many fun things around here to use as a jumping off point. And yeah, I find it a really inspiring city. I don't think it deserved its title at all in 2010. I think it's one of the best places to live in the UK.
That's good. I think you get that anyway, don't you? I think where I am now has had probably a similar title at one point. So, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all. So,
no, I think in the UK, a lot of people tend to sort of have that opinion about where they're from. People don't like their hometowns. So, but because I've come in here as like I'm not native to Hull. I'm seeing it with fresh eyes. I don't see it that way at all. I love living here.
no.
That's why I've been here for so long.
It gives you a different perspective, doesn't it? And especially if they have all those little sort of legends and historical facts. That's, I think, often if you live somewhere, you take it for granted, don't you? Whereas if you come in new, you see different things and you want to explore different things. And it sounds like you do that a lot in your books. Do you have like a favourite out of all the stories? And are they sort of linked or are they sort of standalone?
They are, I suppose they are standalone. The only real link between them is the setting, that they're all sort of based in the same city. They're all sort of supposed to be around the same time period, apart from one of them, which is set a few decades in the past. But I think rather than linking them in terms of characters or plots or things like that, I just wanted the setting to be sort of the standout. I guess the through line for this collection is just about looking at sort of the overlooked areas of the UK and the sort of magic and interest that can exist in these places that don't really get much tourism or much interest usually. So that's sort of the main linking factor. In terms of a favourite, it's difficult to say because they're all so different. I probably should have tried to write them all at least in the same genre, but there's sort of like sci-fi, horror, sort of speculative stuff in there. I think one that I do have a soft spot for, probably the longest one in the collection, is called Old Stinker. And if anyone's familiar with the legend of Old Stinker, that'll jump out to them immediately. But basically, Old Stinker is sort of a local legend of like a 8-foot werewolf that supposedly roams this area. So sometimes it's called the Hull Werewolf, sometimes it's called the Beast of Barmston Drain, bit of a wordy one. And it's one of these things where over the years people say that they've seen him, and every so often there'll be like a really blurry photo and an eyewitness account, but there's really no sort of evidence that this werewolf exists at all, which I kind of love because it just adds to the mystery, people arguing over it. But I thought I've got to write something about this werewolf. So I think the reason I like that story the most is because Old Stinker, the werewolf, he isn't even the main character of the story. It's actually it turned into quite sort of a deep story about these two siblings who are dealing with the death of their father and sort of their mum's ensuing depression, and they're both a little bit too young to be dealing with those things, but in that situation, what can you do when there's no other adults around? And they're just trying to sort of process it, but also kind of come to terms with it and become stronger as siblings. Um, and I really like stories about like sibling bonds because I think there's so many stories out there about parents and kids and or like romantic
Hmm.
relationships. Um, Whereas siblings, I mean, I have two brothers, and it's sort of this this strange sort of relationship where you know that they'll be in your life for as long as you live, and you can go months without speaking to them. But then it's also one of the strongest bonds that you have because it's just sort of you can't even really describe the permanence of someone who's known you since you were sort of a baby
Yeah.
and who has no choice but to be in your life, whether they
Yeah.
like it or not. So I really like writing about that sort of bond, that confusing, nebulous sort of relationship. Um, so it did turn out to be the longest story in the collection by a long way. And I
Hmm.
think it's because I just got really into that sort of complicated story about these two kids trying to navigate life. Um, and then also there's a werewolf, which is always
Who doesn't
fun.
like werewolves? Yeah.
Mm.
Excellent. So do you prefer any particular genre out of, or as you say, you've touched on a few of them, but is there one that you think that's the one I really enjoy writing the most? Or, like, I mean, for me, for example, I write sci-fi dystopian crime. I'm having a go at thriller and I'm having a go at comedy. And I quite like dipping my toe into all the different ones and trying different things. Do you
Mm.
find there's one you particularly enjoy, or do you like having a go at all of them?
Yeah, I'm a little bit similar to be honest. I don't know if it depends on what I'm reading at the moment or what sort of mood I'm in or what's happening in my life, but I do tend to I mean if I had to sort of summarize the kind of stuff I'd write, I'd say as an umbrella term it's just weird fiction. Um, and I'd use that to encompass like horror, sci-fi, um, kind of modern fantasy, I suppose, would also come under that. Um, but yeah, I try not to get too bogged down in what the genre is. Sometimes to my detriment because you end up with a really eclectic collection like this that can't really be categorized. So that's not great. But because I have such a focus on the characters. Like all of my stories have very fantastical elements and very otherworldly things going on, but when it comes down to it, they really are character driven. Um, I want my readers to recognize things from their own culture. Um, uh, all my stories are very British. You'll you'll know from the first few sentences where it's set because this is what we talk like. It's not very sort of beautiful prose. It's just sort of grounded in reality, and I really want people to see themselves but also to see the places that they live and the people that they know and feel like it is their world but it has these other sort of fantastical things going on as well. So yeah, I think it's just as the mood takes me, whatever genre I end up with. Sometimes I don't even know till it's finished.
That's quite nice not having to be fixed to one sort of thing and to just let the story take you where it wants to go. I think that's great. I like that.
It's fun.
So, yeah, no, it's good. I think I find the same. I think I often start in one category and then end up bringing in others, and that's okay, isn't it? Like, I think you don't have to write to set once, do you?
Mm.
There's no rule, is there, that says right if it's sci-fi, it has to stay sci-fi, and you can bring in other elements. Yeah, great.
Yeah, you
So,
end
are
up
you
with a more
working
interesting
on?
story
Sorry.
that way. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
just
sorry.
talking.
No,
I
I didn't
could
mean to
talk
cut
about this
across you. No,
forever.
that's fine. No,
No,
it's
go
fine.
ahead.
No, I was gonna say, are you working on anything else? I know you obviously it's short stories, but have you thought about doing sort of full length novels, or are you wanting to stick with shorter
Yeah,
stories?
so that's what I'm working on at the moment. I've always been a short story writer. I'd say I've been writing, I don't know, seriously or for publication um, since 2017, and that's all been short stories. But once I got this book out, I thought maybe now's the time to try and do like a full length novel. Um, because I have had ideas over the years, like, oh, well, that doesn't really lend itself to a short story. Maybe that could be a novella or a novel. But it's always seemed like it's a very daunting task to to sit down and write a full length novel when you come from short stories. Because I mean, not only obviously it takes a lot longer, but it's an entirely different discipline. Um, I mean, the thing that I really love about short stories is it's a very tight form of storytelling, and you sort of give the reader just enough to understand what the story is, and then they fill in the blanks, and they still have questions about certain bits that are left ambiguous. And I really like that. I like people to form their own images about what's happening. Whereas with a novel, you're kind of just giving them everything and really delving deep into plots and characters. So I am working on a novel at the moment. It's still in this very sort of early first draft stage where I'm just trying to get it out. And then hopefully from that mess, I will be able to retrieve a story that will turn into a novel that will make sense. But that's the idea. It's like a sci-fi novel, again set in Hull, obviously. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't want to say too much because it's such early days, but it is proving to be very challenging at the moment.
Yeah, so I think often as well you get hung up on word count as well. I find that when I'm starting to sit down, I think, oh, I've got to try and get 80,000, 90,000 words, and at the moment I've got two. But actually, sometimes just letting it go, being like, it'll be what it'll be, and we just got to get something down, like you're saying, get a draft down. That's kind of the a good starting point, isn't it? Try not to worry about things like word count or
Yeah, it's
length
so
and
hard
stuff.
not to worry about that as well. And I used to have a really terrible habit of editing as I went, and that's just an excellent way to never finish a project.
Yeah, I
Like it
agree.
takes so much restraint to just get the words out and worry about it later.
Yeah, no, I agree. I find I turn Grammarly off so it's not correcting, even correcting spellings, or because I know I make
Mm,
typos and things. And otherwise, you, like you said, you get distracted. You go back and just add a comma or take one out or
yeah,
change things. But yes.
yeah.
So I was going to say, how long have you been writing? You said that sort of you've been doing it seriously for a little while. Have you sort of always been into writing?
Yeah, I was always writing, even from when I was a kid. I think I remember writing short stories as a kid and then becoming a teenager, and it turned into fan fiction, as was the fashion at the time. um, and I kind of took a break when I went to uni, just because it's such a demanding 3 years, and it just fell by the wayside. And then once I came out of that, and I actually had time again and didn't have to use all my writing energy on essays, I started again doing short stories. And at first they were really sort of rough, and I started submitting to lit mags probably way earlier than I should have, because I was not at that standard yet. But I think it was so exciting, like having a story to send out. And even though I got so many rejections, I think I was submitting for like a year or so, maybe longer, before I got my first acceptance. It's just exciting to be able to put your work out into the world, even if it just results in a slam door at first. Yeah, so I've been writing my whole life, really. But yeah, since about 2017, I've started a bit of momentum, taking it seriously.
Fabulous, yeah. So are you more of a sort of a planner then with your writing? Do you sort of have time where you sit down and plan, or do you just like to sort of have an idea and just go with it? I know for me, when I write crime, especially, or the thrillers, I do have to plan a lot more
Mm.
um, than I do with some of my other stuff. But sort of what is your process?
I'm definitely a planner. I always have, at a minimum, at least a rough skeleton of where it's going. I've sort of experimented with, you can get all these software packages now.
Hmm.
Plotter was one that I used, and um, I've had sort of varying levels of success with it. I think things like that are very good for longer projects where you've perhaps got a few different plot lines,
Hmm.
and sort of mapping it all out as a timeline. But I think I definitely can get too bogged down in the planning and sort of plan it so rigorously that I just never get to the actual writing part of it.
Hmm.
So I think it's about finding balance. I mean, the one of the short stories that I had the most success with, if you want to call it that, just in terms of people interacting with it, reading it, and sort of liking it, was just this weird story that I did not plan at all, and just sort of wrote over the course of a couple of nights. It was a weird horror thing about somebody, um, a spider laying eggs ear, in their ear canal, and suddenly it ripping out and sort of confronting them. It was the weirdest thing I've ever written, and people loved it. And I thought, really? I have not planned this at all. There's no subtext. There's no sort of like themes or messages here. People loved it. But I just can't do that most of the time,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I need to have a plan and I need to know where it's going.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And you never know what people are going to like, do you? It's funny how you think, oh, that's rubbish, and then everyone loves it.
Yeah. And then the flip side, where you spend so long on something and you think, God, this is incredible. And
It's the one.
people are
Yeah.
like, not your best.
No. So do you find that you have a writing sort of day, or are you sort of the person that sort of squeezes it in wherever you can?
Um, just because of circumstance, I have to squeeze it in wherever I can. So I work full time, 40 hours a
Hmm.
week, which can be tricky, and
Yeah.
just sort of juggling life around full time job, relationships, everything. So I sort of have. I'll go a few weeks where I have a really good, solid writing schedule. I'll finish work, I'll write for an hour, read, all of that, and then I'll just sort of fall off it, for whatever reason. And at the moment, here and now, where I'm at is just sort of writing where I can and sort of
Hmm.
squeezing it in around other things. Um, but it can be hard because we've all got commitments outside of
Yeah.
writing. I mean, I would love to be one of these people, who gets to just wake up, have a leisurely breakfast, sort of think for an hour, philosophize,
Yeah.
write for a few hours, have a lovely lunch, but unfortunately, that's just not where I am in life.
No.
Um, so yeah, I just squeeze it in where I can, but it's not a steady momentum thing. It goes up and down.
Yeah, no, I'd love to do that. That sounds wonderful, isn't it? To just, spend your days writing and thinking.
Mm. Yeah, that's
I
the
work, yeah.
dream.
Yeah, I work in a school and I have 4 kids, so I have to sort of squeeze it in wherever I can. And luckily, I have one day off a week, and once I've done like the housework, then
Mm.
it's writing time, so I get a few hours. But I can understand having
Yeah.
to squeeze it in.
See, I'm saying this. I don't have any kids. I can't even imagine how you'd find time to write with 4 kids running around.
Oh, they're all quite big now. My youngest is 9, my oldest is 15. So to be honest, they
Mm.
kind of deal with themselves. As long as they've got food and a drink, they're all right.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, they do all right.
Mm.
So yeah, do you have any other sort of hobbies that you like to do? Anything else that sort of you do other than writing, other than work?
I would not call work a hobby. But yeah, yeah, I try and stay kind of active, I suppose. Me and my husband go climbing twice a week, which I love. I'd recommend
Mhm.
it to anyone who is able to do it. It's great for health, great for confidence, and it's just a bit of silliness. Um, yeah, I mean, all the normal things. I get out on my bike a lot. I go to yoga every week. Just trying to just trying to be healthy, I suppose. I think obviously COVID was bad, lockdown was bad, obviously,
Hmm.
but it did give me the chance to reassess my work-life balance and to make a few changes that way. So now I do place a lot more value on hobbies and actually de-stressing and looking after my own mental health. So
Hmm.
that's kind of where my priority is now. Um, but again, it's just hard when you're trying to fit everything in and writing books and promoting books
Hmm.
and reading
Yeah.
books and supporting other writers. It's like where's the time to do this?
Exactly. And it's not just, I think sometimes people think you write a book, you self-publish it, or you have a publisher, whatever your sort of route is, and then that's it, everyone reads it. But it's a whole lot more, isn't it? I mean, it's all the marketing, and I mean, how do you find all of that side of things? I personally hate it, but
Mm. Yeah, super difficult, basically. So this book is self-published, which was a conscious decision.
Mhm.
Um, and I look back now and I'm like, God, I was just so naive about it. Um, because so basically I wanted to self-publish my book to see what it would be like to have
Mhm.
full creative control, to be able to do the marketing myself, and to basically be in charge of it. I didn't want to surrender control to a publisher. Um, and I thought that I stood a good chance of being able to do these things because up until a few years ago, I was running my own lit mag called Idlink, and it was like it was at the time just a sort of free to read literary magazine. You know, people would submit, I'd read the submissions and run everything that way. So I was used to promoting people's
Mhm.
work, and I had that sort of experience with marketing short fiction. So I had the idea. My goal at the time was to sort of move Idlink from an online lit mag to a small press, and I wanted to be publishing physical books of other people's and short fiction because that's where my heart still is
Mhm.
to some extent. So I looked into it all. I had a business plan and everything, and I did all the research. And I thought, right, I'm gonna start off by publishing one of my own, like my own book, so that it's not anyone else's work in jeopardy. I don't have to worry about letting them down. I'll be the guinea pig. So I was writing this book and putting all the stories together and doing all of that whilst looking into the business plan and preparing everything for that side of things. And while I was writing this business plan, I had this sinking feeling that this just does not work. At least not in the way that I want it to. The only way of making it work financially would be if I was independently wealthy, and this could be a vanity project,
Mhm.
unfortunately. So that was a little bit disheartening because it always is when you have something, a project that you're so excited about and so
Mhm.
passionate about, and then you have to have that conversation with yourself where it's like, as much as I love this and as difficult as it is to let this go, it's just not feasible, and I'm gonna lose a lot of money on this. So I got to that point, but I still had this collection of stories, and I thought it would be such a shame not to do anything with it. Even though the small press idea is dead in the water, this book isn't. So I went ahead and self published it and thought, it's fine, I can market it myself. I do this all the time for other writers. But it turns out it's much more difficult when you're promoting yourself because it comes across as an entirely different dynamic. If you're promoting someone else, you're endorsing them. If you're
Mhm.
promoting yourself, you're sort of beseeching people to read your book, and it doesn't quite have the same weight
Mhm.
in people's minds. So that has been really challenging, and um, I don't do a whole lot of social media marketing for that reason. At the moment, my focus is on getting it into small independent bookshops. So,
Yeah.
whilst it is available on Amazon, if you happen to be in any of these bookshops, you can also get it from there. And I'm just hoping to get it out that way, because I'm really bad at marketing my own work, it turns out, and it's really difficult and really tiring.
I think a lot of people don't realize how much marketing is actually involved. And like you said, it is almost like being a small business, having to sort of self promote and market. And well, a lot of indie authors don't have that experience because you're a writer, not a marketer. And
Yeah.
you have to wear many caps, don't you? It's tough. But I guess having a bit of marketing background has probably been helpful for you in some respects.
Yeah, it has been. I mean, the my whole marketing background, it's really just self-taught. I mean, it's not what my degree's in. I've not been sort of I've not had a career in that sector. It was just sort of this small lit mag that I started on a whim that sort of grew and grew and grew, and I wanted it to grow more. But yeah, I think that's like you say, when you're a writer, you've just got to sort of pick things up on the job and learn to
Hmm.
market and learn to network. Though I don't know any writer who actually enjoys doing these things. It's just what we have to do.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. And with the novel that you're working on, do you think that's something that you would try and go down the traditional route with, or now that you sort of know a bit more about self-publishing, will you go down that route with it?
Well, like I say, it's very early days, so I haven't been thinking about it too much. I've just been working on the story itself.
Mhm.
But I think, given that I've tried the self-publishing thing, I've sort of gotten a feel for that. It might be fun to try and go down the traditional route. I mean, the idea of querying agents
It's
fills me with
horrible.
dread. Yeah, I think if I was to go more traditional, I'd want to work with a small press rather
Hmm.
than go down the agent route. But I mean, it seems very difficult, but it'll be fun. It's a new thing to try.
Yeah, yeah. No, at the moment I'm querying my crime novel, and I find when I queried my sci-fi novel, which did get picked up by a small press, which I then moved away from because I found that I could probably do more marketing and have more impact on my own. Um, but now you got responses quite often from agents or publishers saying, actually, it was a form response usually, but it was still a sort of no thank you. Whereas now, and I know they're super busy, it's a lot more just silence. If you don't hear back in 3 months, that's it, which feels even more gutting than just a form response.
I mean, I
So,
think unfortunately, this is just how the industry is at the moment. I mean,
yeah,
we're
yeah, yeah.
flooded with actual human writers, and we're also dealing with the whole AI
Um,
mess. Um,
yes.
it just feels like it's more competitive than ever,
Hmm.
um, which can be a little bit depressing, but I mean, in some ways, it can be freeing. Like, I mean, the chances of making it as a writer in the respect of sort of earning a living wage where you don't have to have a day job is very unlikely.
Hmm.
So the way that I take that is, well, I'm not going to be able to make a living from this anyway, so I might as well just write what I want instead of
Hmm.
writing to what's popular
Yeah,
and just have fun.
I agree. No, I agree 100%. I couldn't write, I don't think, in the genres that are typically popular at the moment. It just wouldn't be
No,
me, and I wouldn't want to squish myself into that. If that's other people seeing, that's brilliant. They do that, but I don't think I could personally.
no. And it wouldn't be authentic if that's not
No,
the sort of thing that you enjoy writing.
exactly, exactly. So, do you have any advice for any sort of people or writers or debut authors listening to this, that something you thought you've done your self-publishing, you've learnt this is something I'd do differently, or something that I would try next time around?
God, I don't know if I have any solid advice, because I'm still very much flying by the seat of my pants and just trialing and
I was going to
erroring.
say, aren't we all?
Yeah. I mean, the only real advice that I can just give is just have fun and just write what you want to write. Don't get too hung up on if the first draft isn't good, because it isn't going to be good, and just sort of persist, keep writing, and eventually it'll be good. Um, I know it's kind of pretentious to quote people, but there's this quote of Kurt Vonnegut's that I really like. Um, something like we're just put on earth to fart about and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And I just think that's the attitude we all need to be going into
Hmm.
this with. Like we all started writing because it's fun.
Yeah.
So let's not lose sight of that with all the business and the horrible heavy stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, the politics of it all.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, I think all writers do it for the love of it, really. It's I wouldn't want to never I wouldn't want to not write. I don't feel like I could not write, so I'll do it
Yeah.
regardless.
Yeah, we're all going to be writing anyway, so we might as well just have fun with it.
Indeed, no, I completely agree. So, you said your books were on Amazon and then in some sort of small, are they sort of local shops to you or?
They're really scattered at the moment.
Uh-huh.
So, like I say, if somebody happens to be in one of these bookshops, they may spot my book. But for the most part, the easiest place to get it is Amazon. If you just
Mhm.
Google City Obscura by Jen Farr, it should come up. Yeah, that's probably the easiest place.
Fab. And do you have a website or a blog? I mean, you mentioned the literary magazine is, and oh no, you said that was stopped. But do you
Yeah,
have like
I
a
stopped.
anything else, as
Yeah,
in like website or newsletter?
I do have a website, jenfar.co.uk. It's really just that keeps you updated with stuff I've had published, or things like this, podcasts that I've done, things like that. I'm on a few social media, mostly Instagram. Jen Farr is here with some underscores in it. That's mainly just silly stories from me and little book reviews, though. But if you want to follow me there, you can.
Fab. Excellent. Well, Jen, it's been really great to chat to you. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you are less hot this evening.
Yeah, this heat wave has me in a chokehold. But yes, thank you for having me on. It's been such a nice chat.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
No worries.